Hey guys, it's Biggs. Now you guys know I'm down in Louisville, Kentucky and stuff, and I'm at my good buddy Rusty Wessel's house, and we're in his fish house, and it's absolutely a state of the art. It's absolutely an amazing thing to see. If you've never been here, go to a big ACA convention or an American Library Association convention. Yeah, it's in Louisville, and maybe you get a chance to see this thing firsthand. It's absolutely breathtaking. But for today's video, we're going to give you something that nobody's ever done before. Now, I know it's easy to say, lots of people have done videos at this place, but I'm going to do something totally different today, and we're going to get a totally different perspective on the hobby from this lovely lady right here. Now, a lot of you might not know who this is, but this is Rusty's daughter. This is Morgan, and Morgan's going to give us the full skinny on all her dad's problems and all her dad's addictions. And we're going to spell it all out on there, all on the internet for you guys on YouTube. And if you got any questions, just ask Morgan, because I don't know anything. It's still recording.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, guys, we're sitting here in Rusty's fish house. And Morgan's going to tell us absolutely all the dirty tales about fish growing up. She's going to tell me absolutely everything. So I absolutely love this idea, Morgan. She's the one that came up with me. I have no concept of what's going to happen. I have nothing prepared. She's in charge. Same as at home. My wife's in charge. I'm just going to sit here with my arms crossed and accept it. Thanks, Morgan. This is a cool idea.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me everything I need to know. And trust me, nobody's going to see this. So you can give me the juiciest details you ever want. This is just going to be for 600 people, 700 people. Nobody's going to see this.
Well, if you know my dad, you know he's a character.
Oh, yeah.
And this has been his life, so incidentally, it's been my life. And I'm 31. I grew up on this property, and when I was a little girl, the fish room was in the basement of our house.
Yeah. That's one of the videos that's going to be coming up. We're going to be talking to your dad.
We have a super old house, and it was in the garage, so it was underneath the house. And I mean, I grew up going to the conventions, and then later learning that my dad is a rock star to the fish people.
Oh yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like he not only knows his stuff, he loves it. And what I explain to a lot of people when they see this for the first time, that this is a hobby. This is not his job.
Yep.
It is not his job. This is his hobby. It's his passion.
And in North America, your dad is not only a fellow of the American Cichlid Association, he maintains the standard of quality of so many Central American cichlids and live bears for the entire North America people. He's known worldwide for what he does. Yeah, you're right. Your dad is an absolute rock star.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a tattooed on his knuckles like I do, because I'm way cooler. But I'm Canadian. He's the American rock star.
I'm cool enough for the both of us.
There we go. Yeah.
So, I mean, I grew up in the yard stepping on dirty pond filters and getting all the muck out. And then when I was old enough, he taught me how to feed the fish. And what I always remember is like my mantra, and his voice in my head was, underfeed before you overfeed.
Yeah.
And so I helped maintain the fish room when he was out of town, and then later the fish house. Traveling with my dad when we go anywhere, because if there's water, there's fish, or there's frogs, or there's plants.
Yep.
So we're traveling on family vacations over the years, and in our carry-on bags, there are bags of water with living creatures.
He's using you as like a fish mule.
Yeah, mules, absolutely. And going through like international customs with underwater gear, they look at it like it's a bomb, and you're like, I didn't know he put it in my bag. It's the ginger.
See, normally when I travel with buddies and we're going on a fish convention and we're bringing back fish, and theoretically you're not bringing back fish. If you're carrying them back on your carry-on or in your luggage, and you don't have the proper paperwork and all the FIDO certificates and everything to bring them back, theoretically you're bringing them across the border illegally. And whenever we go as a group and we do that, we're like, when we get to the airport, everybody's on their own. Don't mention anybody else. We're not talking. So is it true you've been on trips with your dad and he's basically abandoned you at the airport? You got to smuggle the fish through customs on your own?
Oh yeah, not just me. Anyone traveling with us could potentially have something stuck in their back.
That's so funny.
When I was 4 or 5, we had a massive blizzard, and these things always happen when my dad was out of town.
I don't think you have a concept of what an actual blizzard is.
No. Well, so what happened? It snowed here. It snowed like 2 feet, but then it got like 15 to 20 below and stayed that way for like 2 weeks, which is not common here. We didn't have snow removal equipment at the time. UPS, the airport didn't run. The mail didn't run. It was severe here in Louisville. And like UPS.
That's Louisville for all you people that don't understand Louisville.
So it always happened that he was out of town during those sorts of things. And
In
back
somewhere
then,
warm.
yeah, somewhere where he didn't have phone service, because back then it was just no news is good news. So we didn't contact him. And what my mom believes saved us from our pipes freezing was the fish room being in the basement, because it was like a tiny jungle inside the house. And our pipes didn't freeze. We were safe. Our dogs kept bringing us frozen squirrels all week. They thought we needed help. He gets home from Belize or wherever he was and was like, "Did you have Jeremy shovel the driveway?" That was our neighbor. My mom was like, "No, Rusty, we paid a backhoe to come here so we could get out of the house." But
we got this thing going on right now where I want to take my wife on a trip to Belize. And I was like, "Where do you want to go if we were to go on a trip together?" And I thought she'd say like England. I always dreamed of taking her to like Rome to see she's Catholic. I thought she'd want to see all the Vatican and all that stuff. She says, "No, let's go somewhere warmer and stuff like that." She said Belize, and I'm like, I already listed about 6 species that I can collect in Belize, and I mentioned it to her, and she's going, "That's not really what we're going for." But that's what we're going for. You can do all the other stuff, but fish is number 1, and accept that.
Yeah, that we know that rule here. So it's my understanding that when my dad was a young teenager, my great-grandmother got him his first aquarium. And
she's since been disowned. We don't talk to her at all anymore.
And then he got another aquarium, and then he had to get more because the fish that he had started breeding. And he got really good at that, so good that he started selling those to some of the local pet shops. Yep. And he had his own mini operation in his family home.
As a kid.
As a child. Yeah. And that escalated into this. And
what she means by this is not the 20-some aquariums you see here. It's legitimately a house. It's a full-size. Do you have any idea how big this house is?
I don't. I mean, you could probably fit like, I don't know, 15 cars in here. I don't know. So this was built when I was in high school, and this was his dream. This was all of his work. He designed all of it down to the infrastructure. He saw, while we were traveling in Iceland when I was young, the methods of geothermal heating.
Yes.
Which is what he utilizes here. So they had
he has tech in this fish house that he doesn't even have in the house.
Oh yeah. Well, the house is well over 100 years old, and the property is like a compound. Yeah. So this, when it became what it is here today, it removed it from our house, which my mom was happy about. Her one request for this fish house was that there was a dog bath, because we've always had.
Well, that's why they have that giant thing in the
That was
back.
my mom's.
Oh, I never thought of that.
The other thing she requested when he built that koi pond, really she wanted a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So he put the ladder in the pond.
Yeah. That's totally fine. I've swam in the pond many times.
Yeah,
I swam in it in November when there was snow on the ground.
Oh yeah, I'd rather swim in that than any pool. I'm not scared of that.
Do you have a tank at your place?
I do. Yeah, I have 2. I have the rejects from our his office aquarium. Had some cichlids that are
we were there today. We were there today, and I saw.
Yeah, I got the old guys, and then I have some Tetra and Mollies.
They're not acceptable for the public to see, so let's give them to my daughter.
Yeah. So.
So you were helping water changes, feeding, doing all that stuff at what age?
Probably when I was a teenager, when I was like physically able, because I still, like, if I'm gonna feed the fish here, I have to climb up and like.
No, but I'm talking when the fish room is in the basement. How early are your memories that you were helping Dad?
I probably would have been like 12 years old. Like.
See, my youngest daughter is 3. And she
I was
loves feeding fish.
Oh, well, certainly I was doing that. I mean, 3 years old, I was stepping on the pond filters and getting the muck out. Yeah.
That's good
like
training.
Stomping grapes.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, I was just kind of an anomaly that I like love dolls, but like I know I can catch frogs and like I don't know, like, you know, in Louisville is like a balance of what people consider the South, of like the Southern hospitality and being very welcoming.
Yep.
All of that tradition's here, but we're also a really progressive city, so you do see a lot of the luxuries of these big trendy cities.
Yes, I'd agree. Yes.
It's like I'm super proud of my dad.
You should be.
He does something that makes him really happy, and he knows about it. What he's been doing, he's been literally building these species over 30 to 40 years. He brings these pairs back, he successfully breeds them, and allows other people to enjoy something that they would not be able to receive. They can't, not everyone can go down to the
there's things that you might not even know about your dad in regards to the fish, but the fish that are in that tank up there, those fish there, most part, don't even exist in the wild anymore. And your dad collected them. And I looked in the tank when I was here yesterday, and those aren't even adults anymore. The adults have passed on, and he's now repopulated with young offspring that he's grown up or he's collected or from different regions, and he's growing them again because he maintains the standard of that particular species. That's the labradens from the Media Luna, and he's maintained that for probably 20 years. And even more important than that is your dad gives generously of everything that's in this fish room to everywhere that he travels. Everywhere, every organization that he goes to, especially, definitely every single one I've ever seen him at. And I speak with your dad on the same speaking bill regularly at conventions across the states and Canada. And he's forever shipping coolers of fish. Even if he's not going to that event, if they ask, your dad will more than likely ship them a cooler of his rare fish. And he's got live bears here that don't exist in the wild anymore. He's got cichlids that aren't just cichlids, but they are actually very specific locations, very specific rivers, very specific countries. And he has species that he has 8 or 10 locales of the same fish, and they're all vastly different in appearance, and somewhat sometimes even in behaviors. And he has them all in this giant fish house. And he gives them away to people. And the only thing that he asks is that when those fish are sold at that meeting or that auction, is that the proceeds go to the Guy Jordan Fund at the American Cichlid Association. And Rusty is a fellow of that organization. And that organization is a hobbyist-based organization. But that organization gives back in the way that it creates this Guy Jordan Fund and the Paul V. Loisel Fund. And those funds, all that money that they garner and put into those funds, if you were a grad student, you wanted to do research, you could apply to the American Cichlid Association, and they would give you a grant of money for you to go and do your field work. And that is all paid for by hobbyists, exactly like your dad. I know he sells to farms and wholesalers, because some of these species that he has in this room, when they do produce a spawn, like the doveye on the other side, they'll produce a clouse of fry that's in the 10,000 range. He's not going to raise up 10,000 because all of those fry, as they start to grow up, would take every square inch of this fish house to be able to grow them up. But he does it in a very responsible way of making sure that those fish go out, and he's always reinfusing wild stock back into his stock. Your dad's a really, really cool guy. You're super proud he's your dad, but I'm super proud that he's one of those people I can call a dear friend. Yeah.
I'm proud to call him my dad.
Yeah.
I loved growing up like this. I remember him getting me down in his fish room when I was really little, probably 4 or 5 years old, and showing me a mother fish that had bred, had babies in her mouth, and he's like using an instrument to get the babies out of there so he can keep them safe from the rest of the aquarium. So he was always teaching me about what it is that he's doing, and I grew up with all things exotic, and he's still.
Well, you guys used to have the macaws, and everyone, it got cold, the macaw cages were rolled into exactly where we're sitting here.
The reason he had those is because a collector of those birds passed away, and someone in the city knew that my dad had this warm, safe, temperature-controlled building. Like, he's not a bird guy. He's not. But he's like, of course, like, bring these animals into my home.
Yeah.
You know, we've always been big on rehabbing and taking care of, you know, any strays that we happen to collect. Like, they're welcome here on this property. We love animals, and we love each other too. It's been a family effort because I'm an only child, and you know, my mom isn't a fish person.
No, I know Susie well. She's definitely not a fish person.
So, you know, she affords him the space and time to pursue his passion and to hold his hobby, and you know, she respects him tremendously and loves his vigor for life.
Yep.
And he walks to the beat of his own drummer.
Yep.
He certainly does, and he's an expert at what he does.
Yep. Now, going back to the time frame, looking at the timeline, your dad is known worldwide for the fish that he keeps. And as long as I've ever known him, he's been Rusty Wessel, the legend, and he's known for keeping New World, particularly Central American cichlids. He's a fellow of the American Cichlid Association, but Central American cichlids specifically, and then he's also diversified a little bit over the years, and he keeps live bears. And then in some of the other videos we're going to show, he also has a very vast koi collection as well. Yeah. Now, when you were growing up, you talked about fish being in the mouth and stuff like that. Those definitely aren't Central American cichlids. And I was at your dad's work today, and he has this big 200-300 gallon tank, and it's all full of African Malawi cichlids, which is completely anomaly for what I would expect to be in Rusty Wessel's fish tanks, especially at his office. I found it a little bit ironic as I'm walking down the hallway to his office that there's all these fish posters. At an insurance agent, there's all these fish posters on the wall, but that's what it is. But growing up, what is your first memory? You may not know the species and stuff, but what did your dad keep that your earliest memory? And do you know how he eventually went from what he kept before, like the Africans and all that stuff, to how he got to keeping this stuff? Why this?
Some of my earliest memories of the things in the fish room that struck me, I remember very vaguely when he did have saltwater aquariums, and he had a lionfish, which I thought was because they're super showy and like he would
it's absolutely
feed
bizarre
it.
looking.
And they're pretty aggressive, and he would show me how he feeds them. And I also remember
totally venomous too.
Yeah. He's I remember him bringing me down in the fish room to show me these new fish that he got that he was super pumped about that were 4-eyed live bearers.
Yeah, anableps.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know, he's pointing out to me the way their eyes are sitting above and below the surface.
Their eyes are bisected, so they actually have like two eyes but are split, so they actually see above and below the water at the same time.
I mean, he would wake me up at night out of bed if those fish were giving birth for me to see that.
Did he breed those?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
See, I don't know. Most people don't know about it, but anableps, it's a group of anableps is a genera, and then there's several species in that genera. They all look the same. It's just they get from different sizes and stuff. But anableps are an oddball species, not just because of their eyes, but most people don't know it. Is that one, they're a live bear. People know that. But two is they don't understand or know that your male, because it's a live bear, actually has an appendage called a gonopodium, and it's a very sexual, male, phallic-looking structure. It's a modified anal fin. And then the female has a vent. And because they're live bearers, the male actually have to insert that gonopodium into the female's vent, like human sex, and that's how they procreate and develop babies. But what people don't know is males only are either right-sided or left-sided. And their gonopodium either hangs one way or the other, and they can't bend it to go the opposite direction. So not only is this fish, in my opinion, an absolute misfit in the world, it's like a complete enigma, anomaly for the fish world, but let's make it ugly, give it these weird eyes, like it's not going to get picked on by all the other fish as it is. Let's take its genitalia and make it even more challenging for it to mate. So a right-hanging male can only mate with a left receptacle female.
That's fate at its
So
finest.
that is just making it, that's just mean. That's just making it even more challenging. But that is a very, very rarely bred, it's a very rarely kept fish because they're a true estuary fish. So they don't live in fresh water, they don't live in salt water, they live in something that we call brackish water, and that would be where the ocean, the areas where the oceans merges in with the fresh water and it's constantly in flux, mangroves, swamps, and that sort of stuff. So they're very, very rarely kept, not only by hobbyists, but very rarely imported because they're a bit more challenging for the average person to keep. So that's another testament, another notch for your dad about his skill level and his dedication about keeping no matter what he's got. That's really cool. So Morgan, you've shared with us some pretty amazing stories, a lot of stuff that I had no idea about, but I'm going to always remember them now. But I thank you very, very much for that.
You're
That's
welcome.
absolutely amazing.
You're welcome.
Now, the one question I have here before we go is, this passion and this dedication and like this attention to detail that your dad has, I'm sure those qualities are imprinted on you in no matter what you do. But do you see yourself 20, 30, 40 years from now having a fish tank no matter what?
Oh, absolutely. There's something about an aquarium in a home that for me can be almost like a piece of art.
Yeah.
And if you look, I can get into Google wormholes about like aquaculture and some of the beautiful things people are doing to create all sorts of worlds inside this bubble, this underwater world. And I have tremendous respect for that. I'll always have a piece of that. It's a piece of my family and my home. And I have like brainchild ideas of doing things to harness this legacy and to, you know.
Remember, kids, and no matter what your parents build, when they pass on, all this becomes yours. So
I'm an only child. This is all mine.
Morgan is so looking forward to her gaining her fish emporium one day. And what are the coolest kind of fish, Morgan? Come on.
You're gonna get mad at me for
There should be some Jeopardy music playing here based on where your surroundings are. You know, you should be some Jeopardy music. What are the coolest fish, Morgan?
Okay, so are you asking me like to get, like, I'm supposed to say American cichlid, but I like betta
She's gonna
fish.
say glowfish. You
I
know
like
she's
betta,
gonna say
I
glow.
like betta fish. I love them. I think they're super sweet, and now he hates me.
Total disappointment. Do you know what the Super Zoo showed this past weekend in Vegas? You've heard about glowfish?
Yeah.
They have different types of glowfish. They just unveiled, it'll be available for sale February 2020. Glowfish betas.
Oh man, yeah, the internet's gonna eat that up.
It's just terrible. Terrible, Morgan. Terrible. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Hope
you
you
all.
enjoyed.